Okay, the last set of studies. Have you talked about Schachter Singer's emotion? Okay, so let me describe to you this phenomenon. This is a phenomenon about the misattribution for the causes of arousal. You feel physiologically aroused, but you're not completely sure why, and you have to make up an explanation for it. I think what I want to do, and sometimes that explanation is accurate, but the ones that are interesting here are the ones where you misattribute the cause of the arousal. You make a mistake and think it's love when it might be due to something else. So let's do a thought experiment. I'm a Yale College student for the purposes of this thought experiment. And I live in Pearson because I need to walk a great distance to Chapel Street, to the Starbucks on Chapel Street. And I have a friend who I don't know that well, somebody who was sitting next to me in class a few weeks in a row, and I said, would you like to go see the New Blue in concert and then get coffee after it Friday night? And she says to me, sure, I would do that. And so the New Blue concert takes place in the Pearson Davenport Theater in the basement there, what used to be a squash court. It is now a little theater. And we enjoy ourselves at the concert. And then I say, let's go to Starbucks and get a coffee. And so we walk that distance from Pearson College down to the York Street gate, over to Chapel Street, make the left on Chapel Street, another block down to High, walk into the Starbucks. And she says to me, I'd better have a decaf because it's kind of late. I want to be able to sleep. And I say, that's fine, whatever you want. She says, yes, I'll have a decaf double espresso mocha skinny with a, what? What other dimensions are there? Right? A double espresso mocha skinny, frothed. And I say, okay, fine, I'll have a coffee. And I go up there and I order the drinks. I'll have a small coffee, please, and a double espresso mocha skinny frothed. Except the barista makes a mistake. Did the word barista exist before Starbucks? I don't think so. The barista makes a mistake. The barista uses caffeinated coffee in the drink instead of decaf. Doesn't tell anybody, doesn't tell me, I don't see it. I just come back with my black coffee and my double espresso mocha latte skinny frothed. Except it isn't espresso. It's got 2 shots of caffeinated espresso in it. I'm sorry, it isn't decaffeinated. It's got 2 shots of caffeinated espresso in it. And I put it down on the table, and we're having this nice conversation, and we're drinking our beverages, and it's about 12:30, 1 o'clock now, and Starbucks is closing, and it's time to walk back to Pearson. And we're walking back to Pearson, and we leave the Starbucks. We make a left on Chapel Street. We're walking up to York. I'm getting a little sleepy. But my friend looks at me and says, I feel a little funny. What's actually happening? Her heart is beating a little faster. Her palms are beginning to sweat. Her breath is coming a little shorter than it otherwise would. I don't know. Is it warm in here? She said, I don't think I've felt this way in a very long time. Gee, it couldn't be the coffee. I ordered decaf. What could this be? What? Then she turns and she looks at me. And she says, what a day this has been. What a rare mood I'm in. Why, it's almost like being in love. And it is almost like being in love, except what it really is 2 shots of caffeinated espresso causing a rapid heart rate, an increase in respiration, sweaty palms, but I don't realize, she doesn't realize that's what it is. She turns to the most salient, and this is the way social psychologists would say it, turns to the most salient object in her immediate social environment, that would be me, and says she's in love. That's the idea of misattribution. Aroused due to something else, don't know what that is. It's best if you don't know what that is. Or even if you do, mistakenly attribute it, misattribute it to physical attraction, romance, intimacy, passion, and commitment. It's love. All right, now, I don't necessarily recommend that you do this thought experiment in vivo this weekend, although if you're lonely, you might want to try it. But we can take this idea right, we can actually do research on this. We can take it into the lab. But before I tell you about lab experiments, let me tell you about the most famous field experiment on this idea. We call this the Rickety Bridge experiment, and there's a bridge at the University of British Columbia that crosses a river that runs through campus. And there's actually two bridges. The Rickety Bridge is one that's kind of a rope bridge. It's hundreds of feet above the river. It sways in the breeze. It's only about 3 feet wide. You kind of hold on to it carefully and you cross the river. It's a pretty scary way to cross that river. Has anybody seen this bridge? It's still there. Yes, you know this bridge. Okay. There's another way to cross the river. It's on a low bridge near the water, solid wood planks, nice and wide, hand railings made out of solid wood, and you can cross the bridge that way. So what two investigators at the University of British Columbia did is they simply positioned, once again, an attractive actor or confederate on one side of the bridge. She was a woman, and she met men crossing the bridge. And she would intercept them as they came across the rickety bridge or the low bridge. And she would ask them a few questions and conclude with, "Can you write me a story? It would help me out with my experiment if you just write a little story right now." Then she would collect their story and she would say, "If you have any questions about this experiment, here's my phone number." Actually, this happens when you're in experiments. You get the phone number of the experiment. What happens? Well, the male students who crossed the rickety bridge, they wrote these sexy stories with interesting content, with kind of little bit ribald themes. And the people on the solid bridge, they just wrote pretty boring stories. The people who crossed the rickety bridge were more likely to call her up later and say, "Yeah, I'd like to talk about that experiment I was in. Can we meet at the Starbucks? You drink decaf, don't you?" Right? And the people on the low bridge were much less likely to call her up. Okay? What was going on? Well, this was interpreted as misattributed arousal. On the rickety bridge, you're swaying in the breeze, hundreds of feet above the water. The bridge seems unstable. Maybe you'll make it, maybe you won't. Your heart is beating. Your palms are sweating. You're breathing harder. You meet this person, and she seems more attractive because you're feeling all these things and you attribute it to the attraction. Okay, I think these experiments are cute, and I think there's an interesting phenomena there, and it says something in a way about how easily we can be misled as to what things in our environment, even things coming from our own body,